Welcome, everybody, to the Seattle Sports Union podcast. My name is Abraham DeWeese. I'm back again with the Soulman, Brian Solack, and special guest star, Geoff Baker. How's it going today, Geoff?
Going great. Beautiful day in Seattle. No complaints. No complaints for me. I like it. Season's over. The hockey season's finally over, and so now I get about a 5-minute break, and then have to get back to work.
Right on.
Last time we talked to you, you were working for the Seattle Times. Tell our audience where you're working now.
Well, I'm working for the Seattle Kraken. I am their vice president of editorial, which means I run all the stories that you'll see on their website, the stories that you'll see on their mobile application. We're the only team in sports, I believe, in hockey that has its own mobile app.
Really?
We run, yep. And you'll also see, I make a little bit of contributions to the TV side, not as much as I'd like, but we'll work on that. There's still plenty of time. It's hard to launch a new TV network overnight. So that's what I've been doing for the last 8 months or so. And
Fantastic.
And now I get a full off season to kind of implement some of the stuff I'd like to implement.
So you've got your column upon further review, and that's shared out on the NHL site, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
Great.
Not all the time. Sometimes. I mean, when you see it's very strange. Our website runs through the NHL, as do all their websites. So we don't have our own proprietary website. It goes on. It's like a subsidiary of NHL.com, I guess you could say. That way they can track the metrics of everything and see who's doing what. And,
Fantastic. How you enjoying doing that? Being away from, your standard print media and now working more online.
I mean, honestly, it hasn't changed all that much. The one thing that's changed, there's a limit to how critical I can be of the team. And
Sure.
but I would say that really hasn't intervened that much this season. Where it would intervene would be if a player would do something criminal, let's say, on a sports team, which we've seen happen in the past with teams that I've covered. Fortunately, that's never happened with the Kraken. they've had a bunch of really, really nice guys playing for them, and so I really haven't had to worry about anything along those lines just yet. And what I do get to do more of is in-depth stories about people, really getting into their backgrounds, and we've tackled some really serious topics on our website. I mean, that's one thing I want the website to be is I'll say it here. I want us to be the best team website in all of sports. I think right now we have probably the best in the NHL. In
Nice.
terms of the quality and the depth of the stories that we're doing, and not just myself, there's other people involved in that as well. But I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a website that's doing what we're doing right now, and I want that to continue. I mean, I don't care about being the best in the NHL. I want us to be the best in all of sports, and that's.
I'm still baffled about the app because we use that to get into the games, right? Because it's the ticket window as well. But so we're that far ahead of everybody else then.
We are. I mean, we had a great app. It was created initially. The idea was to make it easy to access tickets and access transportation and parking solutions around the arena. That's the real reason it was created. But then we've since expanded. Now we're getting more into content. So every story that we do on the website can get repurposed on the app as well within like a couple of minutes. And we're looking to do more. We're looking to do more mobile access for people to things like video and other stuff like that. And so it's a work in progress. It's not easy to do overnight. There's a reason the other 31 teams haven't done it yet. So
Okay.
this is what we're doing, and it's a year by year process, but it's been getting better every year.
How did you know this is the right job for you? I mean, did they just reach out to you and right away you said, hell yeah? I mean, seriously, how did you know this is the right job for you? I mean, we love you at the Times. I mean, we still get to read your writing, but why the quick change?
I got approached by a team about a couple of years ago, at least, a team that was interested in hiring me for an executive level position. And
Oh wow.
yeah, in hockey. And I'm Canadian. I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm a U.S. permanent resident. But because I'm a Canadian citizen, you can go back and forth across the border and work in either country. And so a team approached me. And it was interesting to listen to what was going on at the time. I mean, it wasn't the right fit for either of us, I don't think. And then the Kraken approached me last season, towards the end of last year. It's funny, the official approach was made when the Montreal Canadiens were visiting, and they scored 4 goals in the first period against the Kraken, and I'm like sitting there talking to the president of the Kraken, who's making his pitch, and like every 2 seconds there's another goal going in, and he's like, oh my God, what am I doing? No, it was I mean, it had started prior to that. Look, I'm a hockey guy. I grew up in Montreal. um, I watched hockey my entire life. I grew up around it. I played it, covered it to a degree at various levels. And over the lab, I got more into baseball as the career went on professionally. But it's always been there. It's always been a first passion of mine. And so when the team came here, it was a natural I would follow them. And then, when the team said, "Hey, is there stuff you can bring to help us, go to the next level we want to go at?" I said, "Yeah, sure. That sounds like a great fit. That's something I'd like to do. It's building something, as I've told people before. I've done a lot of tearing down in my career of different things. Most of it deserved for the people that got torn down.
Yeah, we
But
love those articles. Those are our favorites.
but no, I mean, it's nice to be able to help build something as well. And like I said, I want to help us. I don't rest on laurels. I don't sleep at night comfortably. And it's a lot of that has to do with I want to keep pushing. I want us to be the best team website in all of
Awesome.
and I think we can do it. I really do. I think we've got the personnel to do it. And I'm figuring out more over the last season or so who are the people that are going to help us get there.
Awesome.
Well, it's a bummer that the Kraken took you from the Times, but the Kraken, they took Mike Benton from the Silvertips. But oh well, I guess we all got to move on. Question for you: we're 4 years in, the Kraken made the playoffs once a couple of years ago. I'm wondering if making the playoffs was kind of like a curse in disguise, you know, because we can't do what the Vegas Golden Knights did. Did we get too good quickly, and so now we look as if we're regressing, or was that just a blip on the radar?
No, I don't think it was a blip. I don't subscribe to that theory that there's such a thing as peaking too soon when it comes to going to the playoffs. Look, we're in this business to win. You're in professional sports to win. You want to make money? Sure. We all want to make money. That's why it's professional sports and not amateur. Although, college football, that's a whole other thing. We'll
Yeah.
but the idea is to win. Fans aren't coming here to, have a good time, look at bobbleheads and stuff. I mean, some of them are, but in the end, they want to see winning hockey. And I think any team that says that, hey, we won too soon, that's a team that I'd really start to question after a while. And so, no, I think it was great that the Kraken made the playoffs in year 2. I think they were very disappointed in year 3, and that's evidenced by the fact they fired the head coach, Dave Haxtell. They replaced him with a new head coach. They spent $94 million. We did last summer. I'm saying they because I wasn't there yet. So it wasn't, but I'll use the we now. I mean, we spent $94 million on Chandler Stevenson and Brandon Montour over a 7-year period last summer. We locked them both up in like 3 hours apart, first day of free agency. I mean, that's not a team that's happy to play it along, go along for the ride. Was this season a part of the plan? No, this was a disappointment. I'll call it that. I'm disappointed. If you told me we're going to come here and the team's going to be playing meaningless games in February, I'd be mad about it. And I'm sure the teams, in fact, I know the team's mad about it because I talked to the players, talked to the head coach yesterday, Dan Bylsma. He's not happy about it. And so what are we going to do about it? We're going to actually go out this summer and get more pieces to add to this team. Because look, this team, we finished 5 points behind last year. But when you look at it realistically, I mean, Brandon Montour, Chandler Stevenson, the 2 big free agents we signed, Montour set a record for goals by a defenseman, a Kraken defenseman. He had 18 goals. Chandler Stevenson had a 54-point season. Those aren't bad seasons by any metric. No. I don't care if you're using advanced analytics or whatever. You can try to fabricate a case against them. You can't. Those are good seasons. So there's no reason on earth that you add those players to last year's team and you finish 5 points behind. And so that's a woeful underperformance. And you saw at the trade deadline, we traded away a bunch of our players. And, some of them were very good players. And we got better. we actually had a winning record since the trade deadline. Why? Because this team played more like a team. I think some of the pressure was off. Players knew they weren't going to get traded. I think there was just a big sigh of relief because it's a question mark that hangs over teams at every trade done. Are your best friends going to get traded away? Is this going to change? Is my ice time going to change? And now they knew where things stood. And I think after that, you freed up some spots as well for some young guys to come in and try to prove themselves. And this team took off. And it's look, take off. They went 9-8-2. It's not like they're gonna set a record for wins with that record next season. But 9-8-2 is a much better record than they had prior to that. And it's a start because it's a stretch of sustained success. And it came against some very, very good teams. Out of those games, I think there were 12 of the 19 games they played were against playoff teams. And against the non-playoff teams, I think we went 5-1-1. So in the games we're supposed to win, we're playing the playoff teams pretty tough. That's a good start. Now you add some more pieces next year. I think we've seen the development this year of our, especially down the middle of our core, our centermen, Chandler Stevenson, who I mentioned. Then you have Shane Wright, Matty Beniers. They both had solid seasons, and now they're established in the middle of the ice. We've got our defensive pairings that are pretty much established in the top two defensive pairings, and they're going to be here for years to come. Very good performers, guys like Vince Dunn, Brandon Montour, Adam Larson, Riker Evans. And we have a goalie, Joey Decourt, our number one goalie, that we've solidified that middle. It's like in baseball, you try to do things up the middle. You got the catcher, you got the second base, shortstop, center fielder. If you get it solid up there and the pitching, your team's going to be hard to beat. And so we've got that middle part now figured out, and we got some very good guys on the flanks. And we're going to add to them now. And I think going forward, we've also got some young prospects coming up that are finally ready. A guy like Yanni Newman, who showed he's ready for the NHL. And I think you add those guys together, it makes for a very interesting season next year. I think this team's going to take a huge leap next year. And I'm not just saying that because I work for them. I'd be really shocked if they don't at this point. I thought they would take a bigger leap this year than they did. And I think the team did as well. And they're disappointed that they didn't. So that's my short answer. I think I clocked it.
Right on.
You mentioned going after the free agents. I mean, number one, does Seattle have the money to go after? And number two, is it easier for the Kraken to recruit people to come to Seattle? I'm comparing them to like Seattle Mariners. Mariners can't get anybody to come here. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't speak to the Mariners, but I know the Kraken have a state-of-the-art training facility that costs $90 million to build. Up in Northgate, three ice surfaces, the community iceplex. The players love it. That's a good selling point. The fans here are a great selling point because no matter what the team has done on the ice, the fans have been behind them from day one, and the players all note it to a man. So that's a selling point. We've got some really up-and-coming talented players here. We've got the core set for the next several years, as I just said. So I think any free agent looking at it is going to look and say, yeah, that's a team where we could be in the playoffs as early as next year. And
to Brian's point, financially, like with the salary cap,
salary cap, we've always spent to the top of the salary cap. So that's not an issue. So we have a salary cap in this league, but we've got plenty of room now in the salary cap because of those trades I just mentioned.
Oh, okay.
And we've got some more salaries coming off the books. And so there's going to be a ton of room for salary. And plus the salary cap just went up in the NHL. So we got a ton of room in salary cap space, and we've got an ownership that has shown a willingness to spend to the cap. I think last year we spent to within like $4,000 of the cap, which you might as well spend them 4 cents, as I told somebody, because you can't get a player for $4,000. So that's what we're doing. Spending money is not our problem. We got to spend money, get the right players in here, but they're going to do that. They're not going to say, oh, we couldn't find the right guy. No, they're going to go out and get players in here. And they'll do what it takes. If they have to, if they can't sign free agents, they're going to make trades because we've got lots of stockpiled draft picks, and we've got a ton of prospects that are really catching the interest of people around the league, down in the American Hockey League level, like the AAA level of hockey. And so we've got guys that we can trade. We've got guys on this roster we can trade. We've got a lot of wingers piling up, left wings, right wings. I mean, we have. There's never too many of them, but we've got a lot of really good ones right now. And there's probably too many for our top three lines. And so we've got guys we can trade there. We've got the personnel, the money, the cap space, everything to make it happen. So we just got to make it happen and get some impact players in here.
That's exciting to hear. Right on.
It is. I'll tell you, I can't overstate that. It's very rare to find yourself in that situation. And, I think Ron Francis, he's taken some heat over the years, and some of it justifiably so. But I think he's set this team up right now, as of today, to really make some impact moves this summer. And then, and I think, like I said, starting as early as next year, you can see this team make the playoffs. So at least we'll at least be in the playoff hunt right up until the final days. And that's not going to go away after a year. That's not going to be what happened in year 2, and then it's going to change in year 3. We're talking about perpetually staying in the thick of things and being right there in the conversation year after year. That's where we are right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When they traded Bjorkstrand and Gord and Tanev, didn't we get a bunch of draft picks as well?
Yeah, we did. We got 2 first-round picks for future years. I believe we got 3 second-round picks. I might be wrong on that. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. But it's a lot. We got a lot piling up, and we don't need all of those picks. I mean, we could use them. We could draft players, but those players you draft and some of those picks aren't for a couple of years, and so you can wait and then draft players, but they're not going to help you for 6 or 7 more years. So you've got the space now to make some trades. Plus, we're going to get a top 10 draft pick this year as well because of the way we finished in the standings. We'll probably draft somewhere in the top 5 or 6 players. And so we've got the short-term guys that we can use our draft picks on. Those picks that we acquired, that's trade collateral right there.
Okay.
So
nice.
I expect to see us use some of it.
Okay. How do you think the first-year coach, Dan, I can't pronounce his last name, forgive me, but how did he do for his first year?
Well, it's Bilesma, and I asked him that. That's the first thing I asked him when I met him for the first time. And he said, it's Bilesma, like tiles. He goes, it's like tilesma. Just think tiles.
Okay.
And just like Bilesma. And that's
Bilesma.
So it's
okay.
Yeah. And, he's a guy that works with his hands as well. He used to do all kinds of construction work in the off season.
Okay.
So he knows about tiles. And no, I mean, look, he's a good man, good human being. Players love him. He's won a Stanley Cup with Pittsburgh, so he knows how to win. Now he's got to win here. That's about all I can say. It's I think he's the right guy for the situation that we're in this market. I think in this market you need a coach that can not only communicate with players but that can communicate with the media as well, because that's our thing, right? We want to be big here. Like we're always striving to get better placement here in Seattle. And, if we want to do that, we have to work for it. We have to have a coach that can work with the media, that is willing to do stuff that, can put a smile on his face, and that can be cordial and friendly and explain stuff. Because it's a new market. Not everybody's a hockey expert here. And so, Dan grew up in Michigan playing hockey. It doesn't mean everybody here in Seattle has got the same experience. So you got to be able to listen to questions. And in the media, when I worked there, they would always tell us there's no such thing as a stupid question. And when you're an expansion team trying to make your way in a new market like we are, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And so you have to have somebody that can answer those questions and do it thoughtfully and do it politely and sell the game. We have to sell the game to our fans.
Speaking of selling the game, I feel like we need a player that came up through our system that we can really latch onto. Like I think back to like Steve Largent. There's a guy that we were with from the beginning. I know he's traded here, but still, you get what I mean. Are either Matty Beniers or Shane Wright that kind of like we can take this city over type of talent or attitude?
Well, I think Matty Beniers won the Calder Trophy as the Rookie of the Year just 2 years ago. So, I mean, he's obviously got that high-end talent. Now, can he, take that to the next step? That's what we're waiting to see. Like, he's put some solid seasons together. It's very hard to play the center position at the NHL level. There's a lot of defensive responsibilities that go with it. There's a lot of seeing the whole ice beyond just scoring goals. When you're on the wing, you can focus more on scoring goals, on getting shots, scoring goals, but it's different as a center. And so that's a hard position to learn. He's only 22 years old. So, yeah, I don't think he's done for as of yet. In fact, I thought he had a better season this year than he did last season. I think he's definitely improved. He's learning the game, and he's taking shots from people. I mean, he's a marked man when he's on the ice. There's guys knocking him down left and right. He's getting back up and playing. That's not easy to do. Shane Wright's a bigger body, so he deals with that a little differently because, you try to knock him down and he won't do it. And so, it's so the physical part, I think, comes a little more naturally to Shane Wright. And I think Shane had a great first full season this year. He scored 19 goals, which I think is a really good start. So, and he's a guy that was a consensus number 1 pick for several years before we got him at number 4 at the last minute. People thought he was going to go number 1 overall that year, 3 years ago. Are either of them really homegrowns where they've worked their way through our system? I mean, Shane spent a full year in our AHL system. And Maddie kind of jumped to the NHL right out of college, basically. So
Okay.
it's not like that. The guy I mentioned earlier, Yanni Newman, he's down at Coachella Valley right now, and he came up here, scored a bunch of goals in a handful of games for us. And he's a big guy. He's got a great shot, projects as a natural goal scorer, which is rare to find. You know, you've got guys that could become complete players, but not everybody has that magic where the puck goes on their stick and they know how to put it in the net. And he's one guy that looks like he could be that. And so that's a guy right now who's in Coachella Valley. He'll get a chance to make the team out of training camp next fall. And I think he's a player people are going to really like on this team.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what I see right now as far as where we are young life. Plus Berkeley Catton, from the Spokane Chiefs, our number 8 overall pick last summer. He's just destroyed the Western Hockey League the last 2 years. And now he's in a Shane Wright situation. He's too young to go to the American Hockey League next year, the AAA level of hockey. He's too young for that because you have to be 20 years old to go there. And he's only going to be 20 in January. And so we have to either keep him in the NHL or send him back to junior hockey. So we can keep him up to 9 games in the NHL and then have to make a decision whether to keep him all year here or send him back to junior. So there's a debate. Do you really want to send him back to junior when he's already like decimating that level scoring wise? Like what else is he going to learn? He'd be a perfect candidate to go to the pros in the AHL, but he just can't go yet. And so he'll probably get a shot to make our roster out of training camp. And he's a center, just like Beniers, just like Wright. And so you add Stevenson, that's 3. And then you've got this guy, Berkeley Catton, that's your 4 centers right there. It could be your 4 centers for years to come. Most teams would love to have a problem like that. And that's, we'll have that settled, hopefully, down the middle for years to come.
Well, speaking of a little too young to get drafted, tell Ron Francis, keep a draft pick available for Landon DuPont out of Everett. Yes.
Is that of the plastics company DuPont?
Or... Maybe. I don't know. No, he was given that tag as special or whatever it is. He's doing really well. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I'll tell him when I see him.
I'm sure you've got the kind of pull, don't you?
Well, I do see Ron all the time, but yeah, he doesn't listen to me on player personnel moves.
You wrote an article about the team getting, bigger and stronger. Can you summarize that article you wrote? I mean, are we at a stage where we have enough players out there we can, knock these people on the ground so they're not knocking our boys, Matty Beniers or whomever, down? I mean, how does that work in hockey? Do you guys always try to focus to add those 6'7" players,
or do you develop the existing guys? Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a fine line because you want bigger players, but it's not like 20 or 30 years ago where you could have designated goons that play on your team, and that this game is so skilled now that you have to be able to play hockey. So you want to find the guys who are bigger and can also play a skilled game. Okay. I think we've got one in Capo Caco, who came over from the New York Rangers. And he's not afraid to go to the net front. And like going to the net front in hockey is so important, but I make it sound easier than it is because you go to the net front, you got some 220-pound guys going to knock you on your butt and hurt you. And so, it takes a little bit of courage to do that. And, he's a guy that can do that. I've mentioned in that article, we got a lot of players from Finland, and Finland produces a lot of tough players, they're they got a nasty streak to them. Some of the guys, especially at the international level, they're known for being tough that way. So even a guy like Eli Tolvanen, who's not necessarily all that big, but he scored 23 goals, second best on the Kraken. And if somebody gives him a shot, he's not afraid to go back, give him a shot too. He got in a fight the other night, which doesn't happen all that often. And then the kid I mentioned, Yanni Newman, who's really big. I think he's like 6'4", something like that, and 220 pounds or so. And I mean, he's not afraid to dish it out. He was like goading a Vancouver Canucks player into fighting him when they went in and basically demolished the Canucks in Vancouver. It was 5-0. He took a shot in the corner. He didn't like it. He went back at the guy and kept going back at him. And so that's what you want to see. You want to see a little bit of attitude that way. We've got some younger guys as well coming up for the Everett Silvertips. A guy like Julius Mietinen, who, a big guy, projects as a power forward, perhaps in the professional ranks. And, so we've got some tougher guys coming up. Another guy, Nathan Villeneuve at Coachella Valley, went up there, got promoted from junior, and he got in a fight his first professional game. So we got guys with attitude that are coming up. We're getting a little tougher in the ranks. Brandon Montour, you see it every game. He won't let guys get away with stuff. Vince Dunn doesn't let guys get away with stuff. So we're getting, and Jared McCann, we want him scoring goals, but he's also not afraid to give back whatever he takes. So we're getting a little bit more of an attitude.
Right.
This team, so it's got to extend though beyond that. Also, Mikey Asimont, who we got from Tampa Bay in the Yanni Gord trade. That's a guy that plays with some character, some toughness, and you might see him get a shot at making the team perhaps next year.
Who's the guy with the silver tips that I need to keep an eye on?
Mietinen.
Okay.
We drafted him in the second round last year.
Gotcha, but he's on loaner, I assume. Until
No, he's playing for them. He's still playing for them in the playoffs right now.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out tomorrow night.
Julius Mietinen, big guy, big strong guy, but also from Finland. We love our Finnish players. We have a Finnish goalie as well, Nikki Koko, down in the AHL, who could be up here, fairly soon in coming seasons. And we got Viljo Tavainen, who you saw, he got an assist in the Kraken's last game. He got called up for one game. He's also from Finland. So we're rapidly becoming Finland of the West here.
Finland had one of the teams in the Four Nation Challenge, right?
Yes, they did. They did.
Do you think that expands to maybe Russia and Germany getting teams, or?
Oh yeah, Russia can't play right now because they're banned because of the invasion of Ukraine.
Oh, political. Okay.
But yeah, Russia traditionally is a hockey power internationally. They used to be the best hockey power. We're going back 50 years, 40 years. The breakup of the Soviet Union kind of diminished them a little as a hockey power, but they're still right up there with the biggest teams. Even though they win in the junior ranks. That's where you see where the real power is at these days. So usually Canada, US is very strong, Finland's very strong, and Russia is typically pretty strong in the World Junior Hockey Championship ranks. So, but Finland's been really doing really well at the junior levels, and so that's translating now to the professional ranks. You're seeing it spill over, and the Kraken, fortunately, are well positioned. We have a lot of guys that I just mentioned that come from that country, and that's what we need. We need a little more grit, a little more toughness from guys like that.
Nice.
Right
you mentioned Jared McCann. I noticed again another article he wrote. He's like the 10th player ever to score 20 plus goals the first 4 years of the franchise. Number one, how cool is that? And can you give us a couple players who else have done that? I know you had a little project you posted on social media.
I did. I put the hockey cards up on Facebook. The hockey cards of all the other 9 players who had done that. Wayne Gretzky's one of them. You might have heard of him. There's another guy named Newsy Lalonde from the Montreal Canadiens back, and Newsy played for the Canadiens even in the National Hockey Association days. So here's the difference. Like a lot of the players, so Jared McCann has actually done it at the NHL level. So the team, the first 4 years of a franchise, the Kraken, that was the first 4 years they existed, period. In the NHL or anywhere else. They were an NHL team. But most of the other teams that had those other guys had already existed in different leagues. Like Wayne Gretzky played prior to that in the World Hockey Association. So the Oilers team in the World Hockey Association, which was considered major professional in those days, right up there, almost on a par with the NHL. And then when that league folded, they merged some of the WHA teams into the NHL. And so the players like Wayne Gretzky, he scored the first 4 NHL seasons, but he'd already been a pro prior to that with Indianapolis and with the Oilers. And so, there's kind of a little bit of an asterisk next to that record, although I don't put asterisks next to anything Gretzky does. Uh, a guy named Willie Lidstrom, who Winnipeg Jets fans all over would recognize, one of the best players the early years of the Jets franchise. The same thing. Jets came over from the WHA, and so he did it for 4 years. And then you had Michel Goulet with the Quebec Nordiques. Same deal. The Nordiques had been in the WHA before that, so he technically was a pro before he actually started in the NHL. And the same with Newsy Lalonde way back 100 years ago with the Montreal Canadiens. He'd been playing for the Canadiens for years. And then when they joined the NHL from the National Hockey Association, when they formed the NHL in 1917, that's when they started counting his 4 years. But he'd already been a professional, a major professional hockey player for several years prior to that. So the only other guy was a guy named Billy Harris with the New York Islanders. So he was legit. His team had just started up, the Islanders, back in 72, I think it was. And so for the first 4 years of that franchise, he did. So Harris and McCann, and I'm trying to think if there was one other guy who was equivalent of that, but the rest of them were all guys that had come from, other major professional leagues.
That's cool.
Prior to that. So yeah, it really is. So that's a long-winded way, which I specialize in, a long-winded way of saying that what McCann did was really special.
Right on.
Very cool. We got time for one more question, Brian. Do you have
I got so many, but I get you. You mentioned, okay, Wayne Gretzky brought him up. His record of most goals got broken a couple weeks ago by, again, Alex Ovechkin. How do you say his last name?
Ovechkin.
Okay, thank you. I got to work on that. But what? You've been a longtime fan. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, you happy for Alex, or no?
No, I mean, I'm happy for him. Look, I mean, you leave politics out of it. Yeah, I'm happy for him. Am I happy that he's been a pro-Putin supporter for years? Probably not. No. Yeah. If you go through a list of a lot of guys in sports, I can find problems with their politics. So we'll leave that out of it for now. As far as what he's done on the ice, there were people that said, he's not as good as Gretzky. He's not. Look, he doesn't have the assists that Gretzky had. He never will. Doesn't have the Stanley Cups that Gretzky won. He never will. Yep. But what he has that Gretzky doesn't have was he played in an era of hockey where it truly was a global sport. I mean, hockey right now is not just a bunch of Canadians and a few afterthoughts from other countries. It's really a global sport. And Ovechkin's from Russia, so that shows you it's a global sport. He just broke, the best goal scoring record of all time. And he did it in an era largely of parity, where there's design engineered parity within the league, where you're not supposed to have teams that dominate. Gretzky's teams won, they won, I'm trying to remember with him, 4 Stanley Cups in 6 years, I think it was, before he got traded to LA. And so, I mean, those were dynasty years. Gordie Howe's teams with the Red Wings back in the 50s won a bunch of Stanley Cups in a row, and we're always in the final. So you don't see that anymore. And so, to hold Ovechkin to that standard, he doesn't have as much Stanley Cups. You can't do that in this era. It's a different era. And the competition he's facing is a little tougher. Would Gretzky have thrived in today's competition with today's weight training and today's fitness regimens? Absolutely, he would. So I don't buy that. People say, it was a slower game back then. Yeah, it's a different era. But if you put him in today's era, I mean, he'd still be a great hockey player. And so that doesn't change. So I'd say Ovechkin's right up there, though. He deserves the credit for the goal scoring that he did. Now, if you're going to ask me, is he the best player of all time? No, he's not. And that's, there's been great goal scorers in the past. Rocket Richard comes to mind. Mike Bossy, who grew up playing in my hometown of Laval, Quebec as a junior. He was the greatest goals per game player of all time. I mean, a great goal scorer, but not the greatest player of all time. I mean, it takes more than goal scoring to be a great player. I'd still say Ovechkin's easily in the top 10 and probably in the top 5 or 6.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Brian, he mentioned Gordie. Do you want to see if he has a short answer for?
Yes. You there's a Gordie Howe story that your future wife, I've seen you mention several times.
Oh, you're going to love me telling this one. Yeah.
Will you share it with us and our audience, please, before we wrap it up?
I was covering the Mariners back in 2010, terrible season, falling asleep in the press box about the 4th inning. And I knew my future wife, Amy, was going on a business trip. So she was at the airport at SeaTac. And she calls me up and she goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of a guy named Gordie Howe?" And I said, I think I have. And She goes, well, he's right here chatting with me. You want to talk to him? And she doesn't really give me a chance to answer. She just puts him on the phone. And so it turns out we knew somebody who ran one of the lounges at SeaTac. I'm not going to say which airline, but Amy was sitting there, and this person comes running up. She goes, I got special VIP guests. You just got to meet. Is Geoff with you? Is Geoff with you? And she goes, no, Jeff's not here. So she introduces him. She introduces my Amy to Gordie Howe, and then puts Gordie on the phone, and he says something to me like he goes, I'm just wondering why this lovely young lady is sitting here all by herself with nobody to talk to except me. And I'm just helping her out. And I said, hey, you better watch out. You're not the only one who knows how to get his elbows up in the corners. He was famous for elbowing guys that out cold.
Okay.
Back when he played in a much tougher era than today. The Gordie Howe hat trick, which they call it, is you get a goal, an assist, and a fight, and you get in a fight. I don't think any Kraken player's ever had one yet. And so Gordie, that's what they named it after him, because he didn't have to fight. Sometimes people were so afraid of what he'd do with his elbows, because he was a big guy, and if you weren't careful, he'd just knock you out. And so he got the joke right away. Great guy. Was known as a really humble guy off the ice. Really, really nice human being off the ice. Not on the ice though. On the ice, being a bit of a mean guy. So great goal scorer, 801 goals. Plus he got a bunch of goals in the WHA, the World Hockey Association, which I talked about before. Major pro circuit for Hartford, and spent years over there. And those goals don't count for him. So if he counted those goals, he'd be ahead of Ovechkin right now, but they don't count. Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, great. As we always do, we finish our show with shout outs. Brian, do you want to start us off?
All right. I'll give a shout out to my cat, Pedroia. She's almost 14 years old. She's my little buddy, but we took her to the doctor today and she's got a heart murmur. So I'm really scared for her. So thoughts and prayers go out to her that we get our test back tomorrow and everything's going to be okay there. And I also want to give a shout out to this book here. Can you guys see it? Rising from the Deep.
Rising from the Deep.
I've read it a couple times now. I just highly recommend it. And I hope someone here can plug it here before we take off for the night.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting book. I like the part about Seattle traffic in there. That's one of my favorite parts. It's not just a hockey book. So people thinking you're going to go in there and read about the Seattle Kraken and their first season and have a play-by-play of every game they played and lost, that's not going to happen. So it's a book that tells the story of how they came to be. It tells the story of Key Arena versus the Soto Arena, which caused it took up a bit of newspaper pages in the city. It tells that whole saga, and actually I think it's a little more interesting than just reading about a hockey season. And so
absolutely,
I think it was a far more interesting topic, but I'm a little biased on that. And plus it's got Jerry Bruckheimer doing the forward.
Oh, nice.
So I get to have my name next to Jerry's right on the cover of the book. You can actually see it behind me if you're watching on video. There's a big thing with his name, and so me getting to have Jerry Bruckheimer's name on anything that I do is a thrill. So
awesome. Available on Amazon, right?
Oh yeah, plenty of good copies still available, I'm told. So
I'm going to give a shout out to our friend Daniel Enneberg, who's just got out of the hospital and is recovering. Good, best wishes to you. And Geoff, do you have I keep doing it, Geoff. Do you have a shout out?
Yeah, we have a we have a graphics producer at the Kraken Hockey Network who works for us in our offices named Stu Vatu. Huge hockey fan, used to play college hockey for the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and works in our office. His father just passed away after a long illness, and he's doing a memorial service for him this weekend. So I know he's taking this weekend off, and this week off actually from the Kraken after their last game. He's taking the rest of the week off, and so just thoughts are with him, and hope the family gets through it okay.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for checking us out here on the Seattle Sports Union, and thank you to Geoff Baker for joining us and being our guest today. On behalf of the Soulman Brian Solack and myself, Abraham DeWeese, check us out on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.